Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Wednesday morning. There is so much going on in sports. We've got more fallout and mock drafts coming out with the Utah Jazz drafting fifth for now. I mean, they'll probably draft fifth, but I can't guarantee it. I really wonder if the Spurs are going to trade that second pick. Or are they going to make the second pick and trade one of the young players to open up room for Harper? So many questions. And if they are making a deal, who are they? Okay, well, we'll stop. We'll let that play out. There's time for that to play out. We got playoff news right in front of us, and a hard-fought Game 5 in Oklahoma City goes to the Thunder. Great game. Great game. What a battle. Denver takes the lead again. I mean, Denver and Boston, more leads than these guys. But I'm not clear on why Boston keeps blowing leads. I am clear on why the Nuggets keep blowing leads. Their bench just isn't good enough. And they got it wasn't as bad as Game 4 when they got outscored 35-8. But it was still bad. They got outscored 22-10. And that's a 12-point deficit in a 7-point loss. And Denver clearly ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. I mean, the Joker didn't because he was brilliant. 44 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists. The guy was awesome. 17 of 25. Quit being so selfless. Shoot the ball more. You're 17 of 25. Get yourself 5 more shots. Hey, all you other guys, get them 5 more shots. The rest of you were terrible in the fourth quarter. It was like 1 for 15 in the fourth quarter, and the make was in like the opening minute or two. And like the last 10 minutes, nobody other than Joker got a field goal. Get him the ball. And Denver, who had the lead and looked like they were in charge, but even when they're in charge, it feels like they're not. You know, they're playing such big minutes with the starters. They've lost fourth quarters multiple times in this series. They got outscored 34-19 in the fourth quarter, and they lose by 7. They were up by 8 going to the fourth quarter. They got outscored by 7. And they were still, up by 8 with 8 minutes to go. I mean, but if nobody else can make a bucket, it's going to be a problem. And the game got really intense after that. The last 5 minutes were just trading buckets. It was tied at 94. It was tied at 96. I mean, they just kept going back and forth. Tied at 98, tied at 100, tied at 103, tied at 103 was the last tie because that was when Joker hit a ridiculous turnaround, spinning, fading away three-pointer. Just ridiculous. But as has been a big factor in a lot of games in the NBA playoffs here, man, these last 2 minutes, teams are scoring. We are seeing runs at the end of games. And so this is tied at 103, but then it was all Oklahoma City. They outscored them 9-2 in the final minute and a half, final minute 20 seconds. And Jalen Williams, Cody's older brother, hit a huge three to put him ahead. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, after they got a stop, hit another three. And that was pretty much that. That was pretty much the end of that. So Oklahoma City's up 3-2. They're deep. They play a lot of guys. And Denver, it just wears Denver down. It's just too much. Denver was really in good shape there going to the fourth quarter. And really about 4 minutes into the fourth quarter, and then they had nothing left. And then the Joker, I think he was 4 for 6 in the fourth quarter. I mean, he was making shots, but other guys were taking shots and ended up being their downfall. And then there's Donovan Mitchell. We got the question up on our Facebook page. Donovan Mitchell's out in the second round again. 4th time in his career. Hasn't been to a conference final. And Cleveland gets beat by Indiana 114-105. Now, in these 4 playoff series, they're all different. A couple times I think his team was just clearly outmatched. They weren't going to win. But a couple times they were the 1 seed and expected to win. Now, I don't think this was as bad as when they were 1 seed with the Jazz, because there the major injury was the Clippers and they won the series. Here the Cavs had multiple injuries, had multiple guys miss games. Donovan, the ankle were a story, sat out the second half of Game 4, but they were down by 41 by then, so what did it matter? He was back for this one. He wasn't shy. He was aggressive. He took 25 shots and he took 21 free throws. And he ended up with 35 points on 8 of 25 shooting, which isn't great. But not enough. Just not enough, and Indiana wins 114-105. So Cleveland's out in 5. And Donovan Mitchell still on the quest to make it to a conference final, which, for those of you who are complaining about the Donovan Mitchell trade, would you be complaining if he was here and they went out in the second round? Now, Rudy has been to a conference final. Now, maybe, we'll see what the Wolves do. I expect they'll win Game 5 tonight and be back in the conference final for the second straight year. Now with Oklahoma City up 3-2. No guarantee they'll get the Thunder, although that certainly looks like, the expectation now. But this has been a crazy postseason. Minnesota, I think, would be favored over Denver, but I don't think they'd be favored over Oklahoma City. I don't see any way that's going to happen. So we'll see how that play out as we keep our eyes on the two former Jazz guys. More hoops tonight, but it does feel a little bit like a foregone conclusion now. You got the shorthanded Warriors on the road in Minnesota down 3-1. And you got the shorthanded Celtics. They're at home, but they're still down 3-1. It doesn't look good for them. It was an ACL injury for Tatum. He's already had the surgery, so the rehab begins. But, man, there's a lot of stars getting hurt in this postseason who aren't going to be back next year. Lillard and Tatum both going down. And Kyrie Irving went down in the regular season with the knee injury. Now he'll be back at some point next year, somewhere around mid-season, give or take a little bit. But, man, the injuries are just really, really piling up here in the postseason. All right, that's pretty much the night in the NBA, all the big NBA news right there. I did love going through the headlines. Sources, Mavs won't trade number 1 pick. You need sources for that? Of course not. Also, if you got $4, $5, $6 billion lying around, you want to buy an NBA team or put a group together, the Trailblazers are for sale. Officially, finally, Paul Allen's estate is selling them. Now that the TV contract is complete and the money's gone from $24 billion to $76 billion, and the Celtics have sold for $6 billion, now the Blazers are for sale. Maximize the old sale price, no doubt about that, right? All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. A reminder, join Hans and Scotty G. They're broadcasting live from 12 to 3 tomorrow at the Dyslexia Center of Utah Golf Tournament at Cedar Hills Golf Club. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Coming up later this morning, Chris Anderson's going to join us. Our spring football tour continues at 7:30 as we go to West Virginia. And Tim Lacombe talking Utah Jazz and the draft and the NBA playoffs at 8:30. Coming up in this hour, more college football with Brian Howell. CU Sports covers Colorado. Deion Sanders has to reboot that team. New quarterback, new receivers, new running back coach. He's a big name. Deion likes his big names. He's got celebrity friends. There's no doubt about that. He's got a guy who knows a little something, too. We'll get into all that coming up later this hour. Also, Bob Casper on the PGA Championship, and Rafael Barlowe joins us, and we will do that next with Rafael Barlowe. Rafael Barlowe covers the NBA draft. He's actually at the Combine right now, and so we'll get his thoughts on what the Jazz can do, who the top picks are, and how this all might play out. That's coming up. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Rafael Barlowe joined us during yesterday's show. We've had him on multiple times to talk draft. The guy is way into it. He's at the Combine, works for NBA Big Board. So his thoughts on all the young prospects coming up and the Jazz falling to number 5. Here he is with PK and I on The Zone. The Jazz have the 5th pick. Can they trade up? Should they look at somebody who's going to be a really good player who's not as hyped and they can grab at the 5th spot? What is the next best move?
I honestly think Trey Johnson would be a good fit for Utah. I mean, he's a gifted scorer. The SEC was the toughest conference in college basketball, probably college basketball history. He led the SEC in scoring. He shot 39% from 3 on a high volume of attempts, a lot of them contested attempts. I think that he is the type of guy that could end up being a go-to scorer in the NBA. So I think Utah is still in a good position if he's available at 5.
Yeah, I think you just said what I was going to say. Will he be available if Charlotte is? Let's just assume for the sake of discussion that the top 5, the picks, the teams that have the picks, keep the picks. Would he be available? What would Charlotte do? I mean, you look at Charlotte and the Jazz, they need a lot of help just about anywhere, best player available. So what do you think that Charlotte would do?
Charlotte is a wild card. I mean, they could look at VJ Edgecombe. But I think with the whole Mark Williams botched trade situation, I think it kind of puts them in a position where they need a center. They need a man in the middle. And if I'm Charlotte, I'd probably really strongly consider Common Maluouch. Sorry, I'm in the hallway. I have to calm behind. But I would consider Maluouch simply because I think he has a lot of upside. But also, I just can't see them bringing Mark Williams back next year, and you can replace a Duke 7-footer with another Duke 7-footer.
Yeah.
How much movement do you think there'll be in the draft based on the combine where a lot of the top players won't play? I'd be interested to see how many of them are sitting out. But still, they go through the interview process, and sometimes we see people really climb or really plummet depending on how they handle the interviews, as we just saw in the NFL with Shedeur Sanders.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's interesting because I just arrived here at the arena, and there's a group working out now of Cooper Flagg, I think it's Common Maluouch, Derek Queen, Trey Johnson. It's like a really impressive group that's working out. Now, they're not playing 5-on-5, but in years past, you never even saw lottery picks even do any drills. Like, usually guys would just sit and do interviews. So I do think that this year is going to be different, but there could be a lot of movement. And you just never know with the interview process. Some guys may not interview well. It could be the inner circle around players. But this draft could be one of the most unpredictable because you have the potential of a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo who could be available. And there are quite a few teams picking at the top half of the lottery that have a lot of assets that could be enticing for Milwaukee.
What range do you put Jakashonis, the kid out of the foreign kid from Lithuania out of Illinois, in terms of, like 5 to 10 or whatever? Where do you see him going as far as a range?
I think you can go 5 to 15. I'm a little bit lower on him than the consensus, so I have him just outside of my lottery. But I've seen some mock drafts this morning. They think that he would be a target for Houston at 10 if they decide to move on from Fred VanVleet. I don't know. I think his range is pretty fluid, but I think it's going to be in the eyes of the beholder.
Why are you down on him when other people aren't? What is it that you see that bugs you?
He's a point guard, and he averaged like 3.7 turnovers per game and doesn't consistently turn the corner. And I thought that this year, as the season went on, he became a little bit predictable as other teams' defenses started keying on the step-back jumper. So just from my personal view, I think I would rather have a point guard that I know that can consistently get 2 feet in the paint, draw 2 defenders, and kick out to guys. And so I think for him, I just don't know if he's going to be really good at turning the corner and getting by NBA-level defenders.
Who do you list as the best shooter?
The best shooter? Oh, man, I just walked right by him. Kobe Bryant from Kentucky definitely has to be in that mix. Concanepo shot over 40% from 3. And Trey Johnson. I think Trey Johnson, as far as just catch and shoot, he has to be in that range. Like I said, he shot 39% from 3 on like 6 attempts per game. And very, very few of them were like shots that were created by others. He had to create a lot of those shots on his own. So I think he could be in that mix. I'm forgetting somebody else. John Poulikitis from Yale. If you're an Auburn fan, I apologize, but Auburn fans remember him for what he did in the NCAA tournament last year. So there's quite a few good shooters. I know I'm missing one.
You mentioned Knippel, and so in a lot of mock drafts, it looks like those two versus each other. They seem to be in the same range, and somebody has one in front of the other, and somebody has the other. What are the differences? We're splitting hairs there, but very important if you're making that pick. What are the differences? Between
Concanepo and who? I'm sorry.
And Trey Johnson.
I just think Trey has higher upside. I think Knapples is safe. He's a good connective passer, but I think if I had to and I'm not a gambling man, but if I had to put my money on which guy will be a 25-point-per-game scorer in the NBA, I think I would go with Trey Johnson.
Yeah, you've sold me, man. I'm starting to go in that direction, and I appreciate that.
I'm a little biased.
Yeah,
I've seen Trey since he was in high school, and there was a game where he was like in 10th grade. And he scored 40 points against Casey Wallace, who's a pretty good defender himself. Sure. And ever since then, I've been a Trey Johnson fan.
The Jazz have the 21st pick there, and obviously the longer you go, it gets a little more of a crapshoot. But a kid like Liam McNeely, a tough-minded kid there, that might be something. What do you see as far as other possibilities with that second first-round pick?
Liam is a guy that I'm not high on. The reason why I'm not high on him is, think of it this way. If a guy shot 31% from three and has athletic concerns, that doesn't necessarily scream 31%. Yeah, 31% from three, 38% from the floor with athletic and defensive concerns. That just doesn't scream first-round pick to me. I may be in the minority there, but I do think he's a better shooter than the numbers indicated. He had a monster game against Creighton earlier this year, but I think I would go in another direction if I were Utah, picking in the 20s.
Do you think San Antonio is going to trade out of that number 2 spot? I read some stuff where people are thinking that that's not a great fit for them with Harper and Castle, and they're both ball dominant. But maybe that's just people who love the trade machine and love to throw stuff out there. It's super early. What's your first instinct when you hear that?
My first instinct was it could work, and then I don't know how, but I totally forgot that they traded for De'Aaron Fox at the trade deadline. Maybe it's because he didn't play a lot of games for San Antonio. So I could see how all three of those guys, it could be a little bit redundant. But if you think about what San Antonio could offer, they could offer a pretty enticing package for Giannis Antetokounmpo. It could be picks 2, 14, Castle, and then whatever big contract you need to make the money work. And so if you can end up with a De'Aaron Fox, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Victor Wembanyama, big three, I think you go for that. You go for that every time it's available.
The Spurs have 2 picks now. Obviously, they've got 14 also. Mm-hmm. I think they got that through Atlanta with, was it the Murray trade? How about our guy down the road, Yegor Demon? How do you see him possibly be in a situation there?
For San Antonio?
Yeah, at 14.
Yeah, it could work. I guess in today's NBA, you want to have as many passers and ball handlers and length as possible. But I think Yegor is at best with the ball in his hands, and with Fox there, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. But I'm a big Yegor fan. I've been following him since he was 15, and I think he's going to do well. I actually think that Toronto would be a pretty interesting fit for him. But I've also heard there's some teams that may like him that have too many scores, and they need an unselfish guard that's going to feed their scores the ball. And so I think that he's going to have some intrigue there.
So how much does he fall because his three-point shooting didn't look very good?
I think he stays in the lottery. I really do. At one point in the season, I thought that it was more likely that he returns to BYU, but I felt like he redeemed himself with his performance in the NCAA tournament. So I can't see him falling outside of the lottery. I think Toronto was probably a good fit for him if they want to move quickly, some off the ball. Other than that, I don't think Chicago makes a lot of sense because of Josh Giddey, unless they don't want to pay Josh Giddey and then they feel like they can get a younger version of him for cheaper. That can make sense there. But I think he's a lottery pick.
I think Cooper Flagg will be great. What level of great, if you think he'll be great, do you think he will be in the NBA?
I see him as a multi-time All-Star, a winner. I think that's the most important thing, is I think he's going to be a winner. Is he going to be the franchise guy, the closer? I'm not sure. But if he ends up being Anthony Davis, who's had a really good career, and, it's debatable if Anthony Davis if you can win the championship with Anthony Davis as your lead dog. But Anthony Davis is a great 1A or 1B, and I think Cooper could end up having an Anthony Davis-like career.
There's Rafael Barlowe from NBA Big Board talking NBA Draft. When we come back, Bob Casper on the PGA Championship, Brian Howell on the Colorado Buffs. Stay with us. Good morning. DJ and PK is proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. Bob Casper, Brian Taylor in the air this morning, headed to the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow. Bob joined us on yesterday's show to kick off our week-long coverage here on the Zone, and for our traditional draft of the big names in the PGA Championship, who's going to win. Here's Bob Casper with PK and I. You used to this whole PGA in May thing? You settled into this new schedule now? Just feel normal to you?
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
I'll take that as a no. Okay, fine. Well, it's here. Deal with it.
Things that I was doing my reading on Quail Hollow, reading Golf Digest over the weekend. They're talking about how it's one of the longer courses and thinks that this might be one of the courses that favor long hitters. Can you speak to all that?
Oh, yeah. This is definitely a bomber's golf course. No doubt about it. Especially the last three, 4 holes. They call it the Green Mile. And, it's one that you just got to light up. Rory McIlroy has done it, and he's won there 4 times. And he's probably the best driver of the golf ball in the game right now as far as length and distance and what he's able to do as far as hitting the ball in the fairway. Justin Thomas has won there a couple times. He's the last PGA Championship winner there at Quail Hollow. So, it's going to definitely favor guys that hit the ball a long ways and definitely that can hit it in the fairway. And so that's why Rory's a really good pick. But everybody hits it long, PK, on tour now, for the most part. 300 plus, but. It's a golf course that guys are going to be able to light it up on. And the thing that's going to be able to help them keep it in the fairway is that the course is so soft right now. They just got a bunch of rain yesterday, didn't let any of the fans out on the golf course. Guys couldn't even play a practice round yesterday. It's supposed to rain a little bit more today. And they're calling for it kind of off and on all week. So in the last, 2.5, 3 weeks, in about the last 2 weeks, they've had 4 inches of rain. So this golf course is going to be soft.
How's the rough there? Is there any penalty, or when you're playing the Green Mile, just hit it as far as you can, go find it and hit it again?
Well, there will be some rough. It will be thick. It won't be like U.S. Open rough like we talked about the other night, DJ, 5.5 inches or anything like that. But, they'll try to get mowers out. And top it down a little bit before the rest of the week starts and play starts during the week. But you play a major championship, fairways are going to be a little bit wider than a U.S. Open type of a course. There's still going to be some rough, but not as bad as you would in a U.S. Open.
You hear sometimes that this might be ranked as the 4th of the 4 majors, and I don't necessarily buy that because in the moment, I don't care what it is. It could be the Waste Management, it could be any of the West Coast.
Yeah.
But in the moment, when you're trying to win, it's the biggest thing you've got. And so I don't necessarily buy that it's 4th. I think that's when we're removed from it. But in the moment, it's just as important as anything else.
Yeah, it's a major championship, exactly, PK. And, of course, you want to win a major championship. Careers are they're talked about by guys that have an opportunity to win and win major championships. So it is something or one that you want to win, one of the 4. And, for the most part, it is it's one of the career Grand Slam, and Rory just did that. And Jordan Spieth needs to get it, to get his career Grand Slam. So, yes, they're all important, every single one of them.
All right, let's get to the draft, big guy. You're batting leadoff, and we were just discussing in the break, is he taking McIlroy? Is he taking Scheffler? Because you're not taking anybody else, number 1.
Well, okay, so Rory's a mutter. He's a guy that plays really, really well in soft, wet conditions, so I'm going to take Rory first.
So do I, by the way.
Yeah, you do. No doubt about it. Except your pants get a little dirtier than his.
All right, you've got Rory to win the second major of the year and be halfway to the Grand Slam. I passed on Scheffler at the Masters because I thought he hadn't played enough golf and wasn't playing well enough. But that's clearly changed. I'm not passing on him again. I'll take Scheffler, too.
So
there
he's
you go.
He'll be Ubering to the course. Is that the joke?
That is the joke, yes.
Yep. KDJ. Or KPK, sorry.
Well, I'm going with the Bomber.
Bryson?
Who?
Yes, the Bomber. The
you guys.
Bomber.
Oh, man. You're going to let me have the guy that won the last PGA championship there? Justin Thomas? Coming off of the second place last week?
If you want him,
I'm
that's
taking
your
JT.
call.
I'm taking JT.
Yeah, he's taking JT, I believe.
Thought he might.
Yep.
Not that surprising. All right, well, I rode Ludwig at the Masters, and I'll do it again. Ludwig Oberg.
Okay.
You guys,
Who you got?
you pretty much go to the racetrack and bet the everything. It's like 3-1 considered outrageous long odds to you guys?
It is. It is. I let you have Scheffler last time.
Well, I was forced to take him.
You were forced.
You were forced.
What the heck? You guys normally take the same guys.
No, I didn't.
I try to go out of the box. I'm going to go Neiman.
Nah.
Oh,
Joaquin Neiman?
Yeah.
yes.
Wow. Okay.
Hasn't he won 3 times on the Live Tour? He's got some winning going on. I thought I would
But
be
they
able to
only play
sneak him out
54
later.
holes.
I know. We all know that, Bob.
So if he's leading after Saturday, I'm counting it.
That's it.
So you're gonna take all livers this time? Because you got 2.
I do.
2 out of 3.
I do, too. It ain't bad.
Sing it.
Hey.
Sing it.
Let me look at my list again. Hold on.
Okay. I want to
No, the guy who I really want to pick.
take him.
Okay, I'll take him. Jordan Spieth.
Oh, man. You guys are killing me here.
Is he still a pro golfer?
Yeah, he just shot a 62.
Yeah, Jordan Spieth, 62 a couple weeks ago.
In Dallas, right?
Finished, yeah.
I'll take David Duvall then.
Oh, wow. Okay. DJ, who you got?
Xander Schauffele.
You can't take Schauffele. He gets
He's
him.
got him because he's a regional pick. Dang it.
He's a regional pick. I got him.
He
He's
won
mine.
twice with him last year.
Yeah, he did.
Go down the list.
I know. I'm just taking a flyer now. Who do I feel good about?
I don't know. Shane Lowry finished second last week.
Yeah.
I love my Irishman.
Come
Come on, I'm
Colin
going old here.
Morikawa. He's another good one.
Oh,
that I
Go
was
ahead.
I was thinking Morikawa, but he's been struggling. I wanted to take Hideki, but I don't feel that good about him. The truth is, I'm not feeling good about anybody right now.
Then pass.
Pass.
And pass. I love that.
That'd be the worst. Didn't some NFL team pass in the draft? Was it the Vikings who couldn't figure it out? Like, pass, come back to us. Panicking like
Come
they were
back
playing.
to us.
Playing
Yep.
like that. It was like they blanked out on the $25,000 pyramid or something. I don't know. All right, I'll go ahead and take Morikawa. That's just a terrible pick.
Okay.
All right, fine.
Why?
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't have any
PK,
confidence in him. I don't know why I'm doing
PK,
this.
if you're going all live, you got to take Terrell Hatton.
No. I want to go all foreign guys.
Okay.
And I know DeChambeau is an American, but when he's all bulked up, he looked like an alien.
It's so random. I want to go all foreign guys. I'm literally looking at the list going, how is he going to justify Bryson DeChambeau?
Because he looked like an alien.
Because he looked, I know, but like as soon as I thought that, you were right there. Like you read my mind.
Right. He's all.
I want to go all foreign
He
guys.
looked didn't he look different than the average, the typical tour player?
Yeah,
Okay,
no, it's a
come on,
total.
foreign.
It was a total Men in
Come
Black
on, all
joke.
foreign.
I get it.
Okay,
Let's go.
I'll go Matsuyama.
Yeah, take Hideki.
There you go. Okay, Hideki.
Bob Casper talking golf, and he and Brian Taylor will join us Thursday and Friday mornings. We'll have updates for you from the first and second round of the PGA Championship, and they'll do their show Saturday morning right here on the Zone. All right, time to pivot now and talk a little college football. Brian Howell covers the Colorado Buffs. What is Deion going to do? Needs a new quarterback, needs a new set of wide receivers, has to constantly upgrade the offensive line. Interesting times. Brian Howell, BuffZone, with PK and I right here on the Zone. Time for Deion Sanders 2.0. I don't know if that's the perfect expression, but, man, when you lose your quarterback and the Heisman Trophy winner, it feels like you're starting over to a certain degree. Does it really feel like that, or have they got enough guys back that that's not the vibe?
Yeah, I feel like that because it's not even just those two. But, I mean, they lose most of their defense from last year and, all four of their top receivers from last year. So, yeah, it definitely feels like a bit of a reset.
Let's start with the quarterback since that's the most important position. You get Salter, the transfer from Liberty, who has had basically 2+ years as a starter. But then Julian Lewis, what's he, a 10-star, man? He just got all sorts of hype coming in there. And so you wonder, what are they going to do? You got somebody who's got more experience. I assume that Lewis would have the higher ceiling. What's your expectation there?
Yeah, I think Lewis has the higher ceiling, but I do think it'll be Salter being the quarterback this year. He's a senior. It's his last year. And Lewis is not only a freshman, but he enrolled early and a year and a half early. So he should be finishing up his junior year of high school, not just his senior year. So he's really young. And, the other day, Caden Salter was the guy who hit the first shot for the Nuggets. They always had a celebrity at the playoff games doing a first shot. It was Caden Salter, so that's got to tell you something.
The offense has featured a lot of quick throws to the perimeter, get it to skill players, and also get the ball out of the quarterback's hand because the O-line wasn't that good. That's been a huge story. So year 3, how much has the O-line been upgraded, and how much does the quarterback have to be mobile to get away from the inevitable pass rush?
I think a little of both. The offensive line, they keep upgrading it. Yesterday they got a commitment from a guy who played tackle at Maryland last year. They've added Xavier Hill, who was an all-conference lineman for Memphis last year, and they've added several guys even since the spring. So, but then Caden Salter, I think that's part of why he'll be the guy. Is that Lewis is more like Shedeur, where he's not a runner. He can run, but he's going to sit in the pocket. Whereas Salter's that runner, and so he's that guy that adds that different element, which I think helps when they don't have the greatest offensive line. So I think that's part of why he's going to be the guy as well.
You talk about the receivers. They've got Joseph Williams transferring in from Tulsa. He had a nice season. Only a freshman. He's got the ability to be a go-to guy?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think he's their best guy. I think they're loaded at receiver. He's pretty good, but they've got a couple of guys that are back from last year that we haven't heard a lot of yet because of the big four from last year. But Omarion Miller and Draylon Miller are fantastic players, and Draylon's kind of in the Deebo Samuel mold where he can line up in the backfield and also kind of that bigger, faster receiver. So he's going to be a star, I think. And, they also added guys like Sincere Brown, who had a breakout season at Campbell last year. So they've added some kind of lower-level guys that were productive that they hope can fill those shoes from last year.
A tight end who could block, who could also catch, could really help an O-line that's struggling. Have they got anybody who fits that mold?
Yeah, we're not sure. We've been asking that for about 3 years now. They did add a kid named Zach Atkins from Northwest Missouri State who we think fits that mold. Looks like he's what they want in that regard. But they have a small room. I mean, there's only 4 scholarship tight ends right now. So I'm thinking they're probably going to add 1 or 2 more. They got a ton of spots to fill. I don't know where they're going to get them, but I would assume they're going to add 1 or 2 more.
How about the 4 top 300 recruits? There's been a knock on Coach Sanders about recruiting, but yet he's got 4 of these guys coming in. Evaluate them.
Yeah, he does get knocked a lot for his high school recruiting, but, when you look at the production that his high school recruits have had, it's pretty good. And, last year, obviously, Jordan Seaton came in and was, the top offensive lineman in the country. And so they've got really good guys from the high school ranks. And then they've got some receivers that, are pretty highly ranked this year with Quanell Farrakhan Jr. and Quentin Gibson that were highly, highly productive last year in high school. And guys like London Merritt and Alex McPherson on the edge on defense. And, Mantrez Walker came from a high school in Georgia that's one of the best in the country. And so these are guys that I don't know if they'll contribute a ton this year, but they should be able to be productive players down the road and maybe contribute this year.
So break down the college transfers for us. Talk about the high school production. It's interesting. I think his transfers seem to be split pretty evenly between guys who are moving from other power leagues, but also they're mining pretty heavily into the quote-unquote smaller schools in G5. Are they getting production out of those? Are they really good at spotting diamonds in the rough?
Well, we hope so. To me, it speaks to the fact that there's not a lot of NIL money because they're not getting the high-end transfer from the portal. And it worries me a little bit because what we saw in year one was they were grabbing a lot of FBS backups and FCS guys. And that team obviously wasn't great. It was 4-8. Last year they got more of those FBS starters that were able to come over to the Buffs. But this year, again, it's a lot of FCS guys and FBS backups. So I'm a little bit leery on what they're actually picking up here. It doesn't jump out at me as a great transfer class, but they're filling some needs at least with bodies, and we'll see how good they are.
What did they added 4 assistant coaches? Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know what the number is. There's so much turnover every year.
Yeah. He likes the big name guys, Marshall Faulk being the latest.
Yeah, he loves bringing in those guys that are his friends. And, Marshall Faulk is an interesting hire because he's never been a coach anywhere, but he's got the Hall of Fame credentials and, well known as one of the smartest offensive guys out there. So they feel like they've upgraded that room in that regard. But if you look at the personnel, it doesn't jump out at you to say, yeah, that running back room is going to be amazing. So we'll see what kind of impact he has. But, on top of the guys that are on the staff, he's always got Hall of Famers around. And there's always going to be big-name guys that are around kind of giving tips to the players at different positions as well.
So you add all this up, what is a realistic expectation for the team, and does that match the expectation in the community?
Yeah, to me, I think a realistic expectation is 6-6, get to a bowl game. I think if they get to a bowl game, that'd be a really nice year for this team. Colorado hasn't been to back-to-back bowls in more than 20 years, and I think that'd be a really nice season for them. I think the community is a little hesitant on what is this team going to look like without Travis and Shedeur, and I think that was evident in the spring game ticket sales, which were nowhere near what they've been the last couple of years. And so I think the expectations are a little bit tempered this year, but there's still that belief that Deion Sanders is going to lead them to a winning season. And we'll see. I'm not sure that this is a great roster right now, but the portal's still going on, and they're only at 73 scholarship guys right now, so they're well below the number and have a lot of spots to fill.
Will Deion Sanders still not take questions from Sean Keeler?
No, Sean has not asked a question since he was banned, I guess. How long ago was that? Was that last August? So,
it was August. Been a while. Yeah, coming up in a year.
But has he provided any awesome content about CU football?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Has Sean provided awesome content about CU football, regardless of his ability to ask a question or not?
Yeah, he does. He's a pro, and he's done a good job, and he's written a lot of even complimentary things about, Coach Prime and his sons and things like that. So he's still doing his job and just not asking the questions.
Brian Harlow from BuffZone talking Colorado football. Our spring football tour continues. We're going to West Virginia. We'll stay in the Big 12 with West Virginia coming up at 7:30. What is trending? The headlines are next.